What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate. Reverse rants, no hate. So, I watched the video interview with Big Bang Zhang, and people are repeating what he's saying in terms of who they think the main event should be on the next card on March 8th. And that's how he ended the video, saying that people know who the real main event is. Referring to him and Joseph Parker, okay? There's nothing wrong with him feeling like that. He gave his views where he feels like Ngannou and AJ is going to be a 10-round exhibition. Okay. None of that, that's all great. Okay? But none of that is going to change what is. And you got to understand this. Zhang wants to put his name in that hat to be one of the guys to face AJ. One of those guys to face Usyk or Fury. So, even when he says things like Eddie Hearn isn't going to let Anthony Joshua fight him. Okay, let me go from that. Okay, Eddie Hearn is not going to let Anthony Joshua fight him. Okay, he knows that it's not a AJ don't want to fight me thing. He knows that. He knows that Anthony Joshua is always whoever Eddie Hearn and his team come to him with and say, we think you versus this person. It's, and that's how it goes. AJ is not the one you hear saying, I want to fight this guy, that guy, and then I want to. So he's never been that way. Okay? From the very beginning of his career, he's never been that person. I'm just calling everybody's name. He's never been that way. Okay, now that being said, Zhang, of course, I mean, you look, no fighter, okay? Didn't we just go through a period of time of watching Anthony Joshua doubt himself? Things that he said even let you know he wasn't confident in himself. And even after the Wallin performance, he's still not a shit talker. You understand? It doesn't matter. But the confidence, okay? So why would do people expect Zhang to sit there and put himself in second place to anybody? What fighter does that? Okay? Now, talking confident and being able to back it up are two different things as well. So, I've never been big on talk. So, Zhang is basically saying what he feels. What are you supposed to do? Bow down because it's AJ? Of course not. Okay? You care who it is. You're supposed to feel confident. Otherwise, why are you going in the ring, right? You're supposed to feel confident in your ability and the fact that you're going to deliver, and if you're going to give the fans something that they want to see again. Okay. So, Zhang said what he said, but let me get to the main event situation so I can bring up some points. When you talk about main event, that's subjective to the viewer. People like what they like. They like the idea of a fight. How many times have we seen a main event that on paper and based on what these people did to other, previous opponents, we thought this was going to be a huge fight. This is going to be a showdown, and then the fight's a dud. The fight doesn't live up to the hype. There were fights on the undercard better than the main event. So, you don't know what's going to happen until you get in the ring with the person. And it's like even like, you hear people talk about punching power. Who you think is the hardest puncher of all time? We've heard fighters get the nod for this guy. Like example, we've heard people say that George Foreman was the hardest punching heavyweight of all time. And then you had people that fought both of them, and then you had people say Shavers was the hardest puncher. That doesn't mean Shavers beat Foreman in the fight, even if that's true, that they feel like his punches were harder. Then it's always, you got to understand, every single punch you throw is not going to be as hard as the other, okay? We saw Ryan Garcia, who people say hit harder than Devin Haney, right? We saw them hit the bag that calculates the force of power, and he beat Ryan Garcia in that. Just saying, you can't go by like every punch that you throw like it's going to be maximum strength at every single time. No. Punch placement, all of that comes into play, okay? We've seen guys who don't hit nearly as hard as an opponent knock that guy out. I could take yours, but you couldn't take mine, okay? So, the reality is you have to be in the ring to feel these people punches to really say. But you can see with certain, when you watch fights long enough, you can see they're going by knockout percentage. Okay? That's why I say when you look at the quality of opponents, then you really can, okay, yeah. Because it's just like fighting someone that's known to give up and quit versus someone, and they can have all the skill and ability in the world. Then you can fight someone like Buster Douglas. Buster Douglas was a skillful fighter. If you haven't watched him fight, go watch Buster Douglas fight. He was a very skillful fighter, but he was known to quit. Well, he only beat Mike Tyson because his mom died and he was motivated. Well, then that's what he needed. Bottom line, he shows you what he can do when he doesn't quit. So my point is, nobody thought Mike was going to beat him. Now we know all the excuses. Mike was out partying with Japanese and screwing Japanese women with Bobby Brown, and because of Robin Givens. Even Robin Givens wasn't even in his life anymore. But people always blame everything on anything other than, hey man, Buster just whipped his ass. It's as simple as that. I don't care nothing about it. If he was out screwing Japanese women with Bobby Brown, what does that have to do with Buster Douglas? What does any of that have to do with Buster? That's not Buster's problem. Oh, but the ref gave him a long... Okay, whatever, man. Y'all get the point what I'm saying. So it's easy to say these things. But you have to really be in the ring to really understand the impact of a blow. But I watch fighters, and you can look and you know, especially, example, you sitting in your home with your surround sound on, you got your volume up, and you hear the impact of these blows. You see the damage. This is one of the reasons why, I don't care how hard people say certain people hit, you can look and see where it's exaggerated, or people are just going along with what the popular thing is to say. But again, look at the quality of opponents that you're knocking out. It's not all just a skill thing where you can't land the punches the way that you could on a lesser opponent. But when guys are determined, you hit a motherfucker with a punch and they just refuse to go down, or they'll go down but refuse to stay down, and they get up and keep fighting. That's different. That's something that lower tier fighters don't have. And even to be a low tier fighter like James Kirkland was a perfect example. The guy had power in both hands. He was a vicious, come forward, one-dimensional guy. And basically, he just couldn't absorb new skills. He just had that seek and destroy type of style. That was his approach. And as time goes on, and you're taking blows, and mind you, if you fight this way in the ring, right, you fight this way in sparring as well. And then these guys are taking blow after blow after blow, and you start to see them slow down. You start to see the skills deteriorate. Now, if you already are not a very skillful fighter, well, you're that much worse when your skills deteriorate, because if you can't get a guy out of there, you have nothing else. Okay, now, that being said, let's go to the main event. And this is some things that people are overlooking about why this is the main event. Now, there's people that think that Zhang versus Joseph Parker should be the main event. Why? Simply because Ngannou is not a boxer. He's a novice, put it that way. Can't say he's not he's a novice boxer. Okay, this is only his second fight. So with that being said, you guys already know I don't care for these type of fights. This is a fight where, no, you can't go in there taking a guy lightly, because you know he is a strong guy. You don't want to go in there and embarrass yourself the way Fury did. So yeah, you go in there and train for this guy like he's the best fighter you ever fought. I think you should train for every fighter to say that with that same mentality. But let's look at everything. Now, on paper, yes, Zhang Zhang versus Joseph Parker, two boxers. Anthony Joshua, a two-time unified champion, right? Versus a guy only on his second fight. Versus a novice boxer. We gotta not call him a boxer, because he's officially boxing now, okay? Every boxer don't go to the Olympics. Every boxer don't go to Golden Gloves and all that. Some people just go to the gym and go straight into the pro ranks. Okay? Let's just start from the bottom. So he's a novice. Now, again, a lot of times we've seen the main event fall short of being the main event, and then there's a fight on the undercard that was better. Now let's look at this though, and this is what people are not looking at. If you like the idea of Parker and Zhang being the main event, hey, more power to you. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't feel. I'm going to point out what people are overlooking. One, AJ is the star. Okay? Joseph Parker. Now, Zhang could probably sell out, arenas in China. Okay? But not over here. Not just anywhere. Can he do that? No. Okay? And pretty much neither can Joseph Parker. All right? Now, Ngannou, who this is only his second fight, most people feel like he beat Fury and was saying that he earned his spot by beating Fury. I say no. He was given an opportunity. He made the most of it. Okay, he came there and did far better than people thought he was going to do. But he didn't grind it and work his way through the rankings, like real fighters do. And so I don't like that skipping the line thing. But that's not going to change the reality of the position he's in. All right? Francis Ngannou doesn't outshine Anthony Joshua. Okay? The numbers that him and Fury did showed you that. So, not only that, that goes to show you Anthony Joshua is still a bigger star than Tyson Fury. Now, boxing personalities may want you to think differently because they rate Fury so high and talk like Fury could do no wrong, and then he went and embarrassed himself against Ngannou. And instead of them being honest and saying that, they want to try to speak like Ngannou was just from another planet. This guy is unreal what he was able to do. No, Fury took him lightly. Fury went in there in the worst shape of his fucking life, and he underperformed like a fool, and he got embarrassed, and that's what he needed. This is the very first time. You cannot think of any time that Fury's been a pro fighter. In this era of social media and jumping on videos and making videos and talking shit, Fury is quiet as a mouse because now he's taking his training serious. And I'm pretty sure Javon Sugar Hill and his dad have got at him like, hey man, look, you need to get this shit together. Even in the fight, he looked like Fury himself looked like a fucking novice. You heard Javon Sugar Hill telling him in that fight, man, you trying too hard. It's too early for this, man. Take your time. Break this man down. Fury basically was at a point of what? Javon Sugar Hill had to tell him what to do. Not on the basis of just being a good trainer and giving and guiding his fighter through, but because Fury wasn't doing the basic things that he should have been doing. So, yeah, that position of certain fighters need for the trainer to be in their ear every round in full detail, otherwise they don't get it. Well, that's how Fury was looking at, that night against Ngannou. So bottom line is, yeah, he's the WBC champion and AJ's not, right? But they never fought in a ring outside of a sparring match. They never fought each other. Okay, so this is what we want to lead to. That being said as well, Joseph Parker was a sacrificial lamb in his last fight, but he passed the test with flying colors. Okay? He showed you this is what you're supposed to do against this level of opposition. I don't care what the hype is. This is how you beat this guy. Okay? This is how I'm going to beat him. And he did it. Otto Wallin, okay, by most people, was supposed to outbox Anthony Joshua. Okay? Well, let's look at it like this. Otto Wallin got destroyed. So if you compare the performances, right? One fight was a 12-round whitewash where a guy just couldn't do anything other than run, hold, and throw desperate punches with no actual game plan. No rhyme or reason. Okay, and the other guy just shut him out. On the other hand, one fighter just picked the guy apart from the first round to the fifth round and broke his will and the fight was stopped. His corner didn't like what they were seeing, and the fighter didn't protest. He agreed, yeah, get me out of there. This man's kicking my ass. Now, you break that down. What fight you like better, it's subjective. It comes down to what fights you like better. But at the end of the day, they both won impressively. Now, in terms of the main event spot, you got to understand this is one thing. There's a couple of things. One, okay, I'm not really big on, comparing, worrying about amateur fights because, every fight is different. But you realize something. Anthony Joshua beat Zhang in the amateurs. Okay, he stopped him in the amateurs. He beat Joseph Parker in the pros. Gave Joseph Parker's first loss. Okay? So he's beaten both of them. 2, Zhang and Parker, they're not like superstars. They do not put asses in seats as the main event. Okay? Like, they don't. Now, their stock has went up since their last performances. Yes, and I give them that. I'm looking at business. I'm not looking at who I like and what I like. I'm looking at business. This is just a reality. So for that to be the case, not only did AJ already beat both of them at some point, okay, but Anthony Joshua came back and impressed in a way that people was like, whoa, this is not the same AJ we've been watching over the past, 3-4 fights. So now you got to understand too, this fight is more prestigious because it's more on the line than Parker versus Zhang. Now, Parker versus Zhang, the winner gets elevated up in the rankings. Now, do any one of them automatically become mandatory for any one of the sanctioning bodies? I don't know. But the winner of AJ versus Zhang, well, the winner of that fight is fighting for undisputed next. So that being said, there's more on the line. So just for that alone, the co-main event makes less sense to make that the main event. This fight is for this is the next step to undisputed versus a fight that's basically, well, I'll be ranked higher than I am now. But that doesn't necessarily lead to undisputed. Now, where the Saudis can impact things in a bigger way is because you got to remember, we're only getting these fights because of the Saudis. If not for the Saudis, that card that we just had would not have happened. And we would not have none of those fights that happened that night. At their reckoning, none of those fights would have happened already. So, this being said, every fight, every card with the Saudis, it's like, if you look at their reckoning, I can't say every single fight because you don't know that every fighter on that card is going to make it back, is going to be in the next card. But just saying, their strategy is to, let's keep it going. You look great in your last performance, so now we want to bring you back, right? And again, let's not be fooled, okay? Parker and Zhang was not the first choice. It was Zhang versus Wilder, right? That's the fight that now, according to Turki Al-Sheikh, he says that the way Wilder looked, that it just wasn't wise to bring him back, right? So when you hear the conversation of Malik Scott saying one thing, you look at Frank Warren saying one thing, right? You look at, what's the other guy, Shelly Finkel, all these different people saying what they think about Wilder, and then you hear Wilder was supposed to fight Zhang. Okay, wait, well, where'd the contract come from? Right? Because Zhang had already signed. So you understand what I'm saying? To hear Turki Al-Sheikh say it just wasn't wise to bring Wilder back the way he looked after, just the fight itself and just the body language and the damage he took. Okay, so then it makes me wonder, well, Turki Al-Sheikh obviously didn't like what he saw in terms of bringing Wilder back for the next card, according to his own words. So where'd the contract come from? But Zhang signed the contract. Do you understand what I mean? So regardless, it wasn't initially Parker versus Zhang. That came afterwards. Okay? So, that's why, if you guys remember me saying this makes zero sense to me. Okay? Parker beats Wilder, but Wilder is the one being rewarded with another step-up fight. Wilder fans didn't want it because they don't like his chances against Zhang. Wilder fans don't even like Wilder's chances in a rematch against Parker. So it's like, okay, bottom line, Wilder's out the picture. Who do we put in there with Zhang? Fuck it, why not Parker? Look what he just did to Wilder. I felt like he should have been first choice. So, because he won. And like I said, the fact that he beat Wilder, well, hell, if we're talking about fairness, it should not even be Ngannou versus AJ. It should be Parker versus AJ. I'm the one who said that. Let's not forget. So, if we're talking about fairness, no, that's not fair. Now, that being said, when you have the star of the card in a fight, okay, and you got to also remember, okay, the same way Zhang is saying, you know, people are going to watch because they're going to want to see AJ versus, you know, Zhang because you got two of the top stars in it from both sports. But Zhang has also said in the last interview that he did, well, hey, if he was offered a fight against Ngannou for big money, he'd take the fight himself. Okay, then. And would Zhang say then that he shouldn't be, him and Ngannou shouldn't be the main event? We don't know, but it's really irrelevant. Because what's happening is it's what's happening. Okay, so yeah, you got, you know, all three of them are hot right now. And all four of them, because Ngannou, even though he didn't get the decision, for the majority of the people that think he won, and, you know, and the fact that he went in there and did what he did, so all four guys are hot right now. So it's really like, you know, because of the prestige behind the main event, yeah, you can't make that the co-main event. Just that would be like having a playoff game after the Super Bowl. Like, no, the Super Bowl the playoff game happens first, then you go to the Super Bowl. Okay, Anthony Joshua and Zhang are fighting for that Super Bowl spot. You understand what I'm saying? And the other, you know, let's just say Zhang versus AJ is the NFC, and, you know, Fury versus Usyk is the AFC. That's what they're okay. Next fight, next game, we win this game. Next game is the Super Bowl. That's what they are. That's what they are. Okay. Parker and Zhang are fighting for a playoff spot. Like, that's what they're doing. You understand what I mean? So that's what that is. If you understand the way business works, Parker and Zhang is not going to get the kind of money that AJ and Ngannou was getting. So, no, you are putting the fight that's going to get the biggest attraction as the main event. And that's all that people are overlooking. Those factors right there, you can't, I mean, even if you think Parker and if you think Parker and Zhang is going to be a better fight, it just might. We won't know until we see it. But these are things that people are not looking at. So when you say that they should be, because, you know, Lennox Lewis made the comment that Parker and Zhang should be the main event. Okay. In terms of you thinking it's going to be a better fight because you have two seasoned boxers versus one seasoned boxer and a novice, I get it. I don't even care for this gimmick shit. I just understand why it's happening. But at the same time, you know, Lennox Lewis isn't looking at the whole picture because he has animosity towards Anthony Joshua. That's all that is. He's saying it for a completely different reason than other people are. And the fact that he is overlooking business, he's still involved with boxing. He knows how this thing works. So the fact that he's saying that, he's purposely overlooking those realities, okay? No, all four guys that's involved The other three are not as popular as AJ. They're not as anticipated as AJ. Now, you got to look at this, for example. Okay? And this is another thing people don't think about. We've never gotten Anthony Joshua versus Fury. We have gotten Anthony Joshua versus Usyk. So, huge anticipation either way. Why? We want to see what happens when AJ and Fury fight. And especially if he goes in there and dismantles, Ngannou, like he should. Now, not only that, I think this AJ beats Usyk. Man, I wouldn't mind seeing the third fight. That's you understand? Now, that's what it's going to be. Now, should Usyk lose to Fury, right? And say Ngannou beats Anthony Joshua. Fury, for one, because think about it, there will be a rematch, right? Think about it. Let's just say Fury is the one with his hand raised in the end. He might retire and might not fight Ngannou in the rematch. And he's already said Ngannou's not worth it. So maybe a dollar amount may change his mind. But he might just, if he win those 2 fights against Usyk, he might just walk away. Now, on the other hand, let's say Parker beat Zhang, right? Say AJ won the fight. But let's say AJ gets injured. Something happens. He's out. Right? And they need a replacement. Didn't Tyson Fury already say he would never fight Parker? Parker said he don't want to fight Fury. Only way he'd fight Fury is if Fury wanted to fight him. Otherwise, they're like brothers and he don't want to fight Fury. So that wouldn't happen. So the point is we're progressing to go further. We want somebody in there that wants to be undisputed. So if Joseph Parker would be willing to not fight Fury, to not make some noise about getting his shot, well, he did all of that progressing to do what? To do what? So it would take Fury to retire. Now the belts are up for grabs and Joseph Parker's in a position where he can fight for one of those belts. Think about it. Because if it came down to Joseph Parker and Fury, then we have no fucking fight. You understand what I'm saying? None whatsoever. Now, could it be a situation where Fury may use everything he knows about Parker to his advantage and maybe feel like he knows how to beat Parker because they've been sparring and all this kind of stuff or whatever? The same type of shit that Johnny Nelson said about Anthony Joshua and Wallin. Oh, AJ, he's not a different guy. He just knew what he had in front of him. He knew what he had to do. Just think, what if that's the case? But bottom line is, if they both stick to their word, then we wouldn't have an undisputed fight between Joseph Parker and Tyson Fury. So is that what y'all want? No, we want someone that's going to go in there and fight and want to be undisputed. Like we thought at one point that Fury would be that guy that would make undisputed happen with AJ because we clearly saw Wilder didn't want to. Then Fury beat Wilder, and then Fury did the same thing that Wilder did. Avoided fighting AJ, but talked and did everything except for literally sign a contract and say, let's go. And you know what? Let me point these things out too. You got to look at integrity. You got to look at where a person stands, what they stand for. When Fury first came back from his 3-year hiatus, Anthony Joshua said, I don't want to fight Fury now. I'm not the kind of person that try to take advantage of someone. Fury's going to need to get some fights under this belt first, then get back on. Then after he's right, I want him 100% because I want no excuses at the end of the fight. So, and this is when AJ was AJ, right? Well, if you look at the flip side, Fury only made noise about fighting Anthony Joshua when Anthony Joshua was showing, damn, okay, he's not the same guy. So he was looking for a weak-minded, psychologically broken, Anthony Joshua, which was the complete opposite of what Anthony Joshua is. He didn't want a weakened Fury. He wanted a strong, 100% Fury. Fury didn't want that. Then when AJ decides, okay, you got my attention, yeah, let's make it happen. Then all of a sudden, now you start with the goal, moving the goalposts. You start with all the ultimatums and trying to rush and rush. And he did the same thing with Usyk. So when you look at all of that on a business side of things, I don't know if this guy Turki Al-Sheikh even pays attention to all of the story and know all of that. But I'm saying, I know for me to see the character of a person, to understand, I'm looking at everything. So I want to put fights together where I know that this fight is going to lead to this one. This one's going to lead to that. So the ultimate prize, basically, once we get to that, okay, now, who's worthy? Who's next? We don't, and see, that's the thing. That's what we need. Okay, and so the way things have been going lately with all the cherry picking and the A-side, B-side shit, well, it's obvious that they're offering these people the kind of money that they know. If I blow this shit, man, I'm not going to get this in the States. I'm not going to get this. You know what? I want to make the most of it. So, again, when I said you will see a process of elimination if the Saudis keep this going. Why? Because not just a win-loss record, but because fighters who really want to fight and want that money, if that's not an extra incentive to get your ass up and stay in that gym and stay focused, then what will motivate you? Because that's the biggest thing and the issue of why you can't put solid cards together in the States. That's why you get one main event and a crappy card. So you got to factor all those things in, man, and you got to take care of people. So, no, we know right now, factual, you didn't hear Deontay Wilder open his mouth to speak to deny nothing that Turkey said. Now, did you? So you think that he didn't say to Wilder, look, we want to see you back 100%, man. Like, after that fight with Parker right now, it doesn't make any sense to put you back on this card. Because if we did, it would be against a lesser opponent. And that's not what the paying customer deserve. That's not what we want to see. We want the best fighting the best. We need you to get back right. Which means Wilder's free to fight in the States or wherever the hell else. Why not, right? And I would rather him do it that way than to do it by being able to handpick or have them cherry pick for him. So let's give him an easy fight. Okay, now that being said, right, if a fighter really wants to be on these cards, they're going to do everything in their power to make sure they're on top of their game. Now, for Wilder, let's just say he comes back and fight, let's just say 2 meatballs, knocks them out. All the commentators, Wilder is back. Dr. Sleep is back, right? But even though it's typical Wilder fashion, if he did it twice in a row, still in all, if his name is being talked about still, and now it's like more big talk about him finally fighting someone for undisputed or whatever, then if anything, he'll be right back on the card. Now, when you look at the level of opposition, they could say, yeah, okay, well, he did what he did the way he always does against low level opponents, but to come back here, that's not who's going to fight. So he's going to have to fight another top guy and hope that he can show, for him, that he can show that he can do this against a top level guy. Now, that being said, we see what happened when he steps up in competition. But that's how it should be for all of these guys. So if you want to, go get your killer instinct back, so to speak, you want to go sharpen up, you want to make sure that you're, then understand that's how you do it on another card, not on these cards. And this is my point. These cards are about the best fighting the best. So that process of elimination is going to come down to the fighters, how hungry they are, how focused they are. And just to know, I can get a call at any time, right? Whether it be by the Saudis or anybody, that's enough for you to be in the gym and really putting that work in. But for this especially, and for you to have a multi-fight deal and be in touch with these guys, we know damn well that it wasn't about any fighter ducking anybody. This was Turkey saying, no, it's no sense to bring this guy back right now. I don't see the purpose, because now he'll be even damaged further. Why? Because check this out. The way he looked, psychologically, this guy comes back, we put him in there against another guy, it's not going to work. So let's just say that even for the Zhang fight, okay, we go back to where the contract come from, right? There had to be conversation. Wilder, how are you feeling mentally? What's going on or whatever? It had to be something going on, because for Zhang, and Zhang said he signed the contract. So you know that it's true that, yeah, the contract was signed. Zhang signed the contract to fight Wilder, and Wilder didn't want the fight. Otherwise, just imagine him going, look, Turkey, Joseph Parker just beat me. That's all. Bottom line, I'm fine mentally. I'm fine physically. I want this fight with Zhang. Just say, you don't think that Turkey would have said that? And even if he said, I hear you and I appreciate your determination, Wilder, but I feel like I still don't want to chance it. Because now where you can rebuild with a fight or two, and it's going to depend on who he fights, who you look good against. That's what it's not, see, to like I say, beating up on somebody who's a low tier guy doesn't elevate you to top tier status, man. You got to start climbing the ladder. So, you come back with a big win against a top level guy. And I'm not saying just because it's not on the Saudi card that, oh, it's automatic, he should get a soft touch. The point, what I'm saying is, that doesn't prove anything other than you did things the same way. Remember, what applies to other fighters don't apply to me. So we know he's not working on anything new. It's too late for all of that. So for that to be the case, it's the type of thing where for the Saudis to do what they're doing successfully, they already know they can't do what's been previously done. One good fight, bullshit card. No, every card needs to be stacked. And here we are 3 months later about to have another, come on, y'all. I mean, it's happening. And you know why, too, I feel like he pays attention to more than just the fight itself? Because this guy, Turkey, said in an interview that he really want Ben Davison to stay with AJ, because the way AJ came back was unbelievable. Like, this is like a whole new AJ now. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so, yeah, you want to see that. So people are, yeah, but what if it comes down to Fury versus AJ? You think Ben Davison going to stay? Listen, fuck that, man. What you had with Fury decided to go a different route. Well, that man's free to fight, whoever. So even if it's Fury, okay, well, big deal. Big deal. You're working for AJ. Sugar Hill, he's working for Fury. Fury, for whatever reason, Fury wanted to go a different direction. He did. So what does it matter? Because of what he had with Fury. So what? So what? I mean, we listen. That to me is irrelevant, really. But it's the type of thing where I don't see a reason why Ben Davison wouldn't stay with AJ. I mean, you didn't decide to walk away from Fury. Fury decided that he wanted to go a different direction. So it is what it is. Now, that being said, the main event has more at stake than the co-main event. Okay, and pretty much you also got to remember this. Now, look at when we talk about on paper, okay? We people assume that Joseph Parker and Zhang is going to be a great fight, and it just may be. But you got to also look at this. If you want to talk about on paper, look at what Joe Joyce did to Joseph Parker. Now, look at what Zhang did to Joe Joyce. And not once, but twice. So, what Joseph Parker did to Wilder, Zhang may do to him. You understand what I mean? So, we don't know. We don't know. And we were asked, Zhang was asked, do he feel like Joseph Parker is the biggest threat on his resume so far? And even with Wilder, people still with the right hand nonsense, right? He goes, well, Joseph Parker is always a threat because, the guy, he's been active and You know, he don't turn down fights. I don't turn down fights, whatever, right? Now, if the only reason you see Wilder as a bigger threat or just as big of a threat, it's only one reason. Only one reason, the right hand. That being said, we saw how Joseph Parker handled the right hand. We saw how Tyson Fury handled the right hand. So the point is, for a guy that has one trick and sets up that one trick the same way every time, you already know what's coming. You can see that shit coming from a mile away. Okay, even when he throws it quick, you know that he doesn't mix his punches up well. And you know that almost like every attack, Daniel starts with jab, right hand, or he'll just jab, and he'll just jab. If he throws a jab, he doesn't follow the jab up with an uppercut, a hook, nothing. You know, jab, body shot, go up to nothing. It's just the same repetitive things all the time. So, I don't know. I just feel like fighters believe the hype and the power of that right hand. And I guess these fighters are more easily psyched out than fighters of old because, to be honest with you, when I watch any of these guys fight and you talk about how hard someone hits, like sometimes a person might want to give, they might not want to give certain fighters their credit, so they'll say, oh, this guy hits harder than the last guy I fought. That guy stopped you, made you quit, knocked you out. This guy knocked you down, you got back up and won. So what are you trying to say? You wasn't the same in the last fight, or you're better this fight, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just ignorance. They just say things just to take credit away from a guy, and it makes no sense. I made you quit, but this guy hits harder. Okay, well, that's okay. I'm glad he hits harder, as long as I hit hard enough to stop you. And that's all it comes down to, the reality. Not all this he said, she said. So I think when you really factor in all these things I just said, it's just the reality. You know, so in closing, yes, there's more to gain. You know, yes, you're one step closer to this. This is the next step. This is your last step before Undisputed, versus where Zhang and Parker, it's a higher ranking slot. That doesn't mean that you're gonna automatically like you know, the Saudis don't control the ranking system. You know, so the ranking systems for the different sanctioning bodies, we don't know. Like I said, this is going to elevate that person to mandatory for any one of the belts, so they will be fighting one of the whoever's undisputed at the time. We don't know that. We just know it's a step closer. To what exactly, we don't know. So no, you can't make that the main event. You can't make the co-main event the main event in this situation. It's more at stake. It's more prestige. You know, and that would really look backwards. Just imagine, regardless to who wins between Zhang and Parker, the guys on the co-main event is fighting for Undisputed in their next fight. Like, make that make sense. But in terms of the fact that Parker and Zhang are both, you know, seasoned fighters, whereas AJ is the only seasoned fighter standing across from Ngannou, I get it. But, you know, that's the reason. Okay, you gotta look at it from a business perspective, not from a fan standpoint. And don't be practical and typical when you think about things like that. You gotta look at it in a business. Look, you gotta look at it for business. You understand what I mean? Star power means everything in boxing, even with the Saudis. Otherwise, you wouldn't see Ngannou on that card if he wasn't. And look, do you think they'd be willing to take a chance on him not being able to draw with AJ, because the numbers that he did against Fury didn't do nearly what they thought it was going to be? But again, AJ is that guy, and the fact that they are on a stack, well, what will probably be another stacked card, because I don't know about anybody else that's on a card so far except for these two fights. But bottom line, you know what they've been doing, and they've been showing us, you know, since the day of reckoning, that, hey man, like they showed us, they want nothing but the best fights. And like he said, they have a different vision for boxing based on looking at the way things have been going everywhere else and how you can't get cards like this. Remember when I said, see, you guys are going to learn and listen to what I say and really understand that, damn, This the type of motherfucker that play chess and plays two moves ahead. Yeah. Did I not say to you guys, I was talking about mandatories, and I was talking about mandatories, having to fight mandatories. If you don't fight your mandatory, you'll be stripped. Okay. Now, if it's a situation where you're like legitimately injured, right? Legitimately injured. Okay. People are scared to lose their stars, but is it, things like this are going to happen. So let's say you needed surgery or something, you're going to be out for a year or whatever. Look, that's not the opponent's problem. It's not, and if you're not going to be stripped immediately, here's the problem when you come back. When you come back, what's the first thing that most fighters are going to do? They're going to take a tune-up. So everything will be postponed because of, okay, come back and take your tune-up, right? And then come back to fight for your belt. So if you don't fight your mandatories, you're stripped. If you're going to have title eliminators, it's mandatory that the winner of the title eliminators fight each other. If you refuse or the same thing, you get injured, okay, you lose your spot to the next in line. It's as simple as that. There's no reason to just keep holding up and postponing these fights. And this is what's been happening. So people have learned how to milk the system, how to pretend that they're hurt. Because if you say it's your back or your neck, all types of shit. Oh, I had to do this happened, that happened, whatever it may be. So even if it's a legitimate injury, hey, it's unfortunate, but hey, so guess what? If it was a legitimate injury and you're willing to come back and more, I'm willing to bet you if that was to happen, you see less tune-up fights because people want their spot back. You understand what I mean? So once they have some structure in boxing, you see things change. And like I said, the only time you should have an actual pay-per-view, it's when it's a stacked card. And everybody kept saying, yeah, but where are they going to get what you mean where are they going to get the money? Stop acting like every fighter on a fucking stacked card is going to be a superstar that put asses in seats. No. Frank Sanchez is a fucking excellent fighter, but you seeing this guy fight in front of empty ass crowds. He's on a card, but guess what? Nobody cares. It's just somebody named Frank Sanchez. I don't know this motherfucker. That's the mentality, right? So you see the people half empty arena. So all those people that's coming in later didn't even see this guy fight. So now with cards like this, you're getting the stack cards and for a fucking great price. Let's be real, y'all. Otherwise, you're paying $89 to watch a main event that you might not even fucking like, and a fucking undercard with a half-empty building up until like the fourth or fifth fight, and then on top of that, nobody really cares about these guys. That is why we need the Saudis to do what they're doing. So now they come along, stack cards only. So at least they've answered that, and I said that for the longest. Only stacked cards should be pay-per-views. Only stacked cards. At least they did that. So who knows? Maybe all the other things I said, they might, hey, listen. Boxing needs to step up. One step at a time. We get it. One step at a time. But what the Saudis are doing is making it known, if you want to be on this card, you got to be willing to fight nothing but the top guys. So if anybody sits there and want to play eeny, meeny, miny, no, I don't want to fight him, then you don't belong on this card. It's as simple as that. And when you can't have a logical explanation for turning down multi-millions of dollars, and then yet, what does every fighter want? They want money. They want titles, but they want money more than anything else. They want money. And in this day and age, where we got guys sitting back talking about how they're paid, we're getting money over here, these niggas is broke, blah, 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 and they're showing you legacy means nothing. It's all about making this money. Now, that being said, y'all, that's why the main event is the main event. It's more prestige on the line, it's more to lose, and it's more to gain. That's why. Let's just think, for example, let's say AJ would have lost and let's say, and Parker won, right? The main event on this card, Parker versus Wally. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not a main event that most people would even cared about. Even though if Wallin would have beat AJ, think about it. Wallin versus Parker, main event. Now, if Zhang would have been on the card, and let's say his opponent would have been Francis Ngannou, do you think the Saudis would have made the main event Parker versus Wallin? Or do you think they would have made it Zhang, who's hot because he came off knocking out Joe Joyce, and it's a story behind that where it's like, now imagine what Fury just went through with Ngannou. Can Big Bang Zhang, two big guys that can punch, what's gonna happen? Okay, they would be the main event too, over Wallin and Parker. Isn't Wallin a seasoned veteran? Isn't Parker a seasoned veteran? Yes, but just the intrigue alone, it would be more of an anticipation to see if Zhang is going to knock out Ngannou, or if Ngannou's going to knock out Zhang, even if it wasn't for Undisputed. Even if it wasn't in the same situation to say, well, if whoever wins this, they fight for Undisputed. If it was just the fight, somebody's going to get pushed up in the rankings, it still would be the main event over Parker and Wallin. And that's because the story is more intriguing. So that's how business is done. So, yeah, I've seen a lot of main events that I didn't really, it didn't live up to the hype. But on a stacked card like this, you got to also understand, like, it's not going to be the last card, right? They're going to keep this thing going. So I think that people are making more out of it in terms of that. And again, understand where Lennox Lewis was coming from when he said that. He doesn't like AJ. All right, simple. Talk to me in the comment section, y'all. Do y'all get the point that I'm making and understand the point I'm making about why that's the main event? Even if you still like Parker versus Zhang as the main event better, that's fine. Now, like I said, that's subjective. People are going to feel what they feel, but I'm just giving you guys, because a lot of people are not looking at those facts. That's why it's the main event. Anyway, never fall in love with lies. Remember, the truth brings hate out of people. And I will catch y'all. You know what? I will catch y'all on the next video. Y'all will laugh if y'all knew what I was over here doing right now, but I ain't gonna tell y'all.